All right, hashtag Victoria's Lounge is how you can chime into the conversation on social media. I'm sure you'll have a lot to say on this one. Aleya, let me start with you. We have a lot of stereotypes, especially when it comes to the Asian community. The biggest one probably is, it's a very closed off community, kind of keep to themselves, but very family oriented. Yep. But where do a lot of these stereotypes stem from, at least when it comes to African-Asian relations?
Right. There's lots of stereotypes that Muindis get.
Yeah.
I mean, even the whole issue of, do we call you Kenyan Indian, Muindi, brown? So we do get accused, I'll use that word very carefully, about being very, secluded and not integrating. And I think a lot of that comes from a historical context. Mm-hmm. So if you look at, I think about my forefathers, coming from India, getting on this ship, having no idea what they are coming to. And actually they were economic migrants. They weren't really interested in integration. All they were interested in is making a better life for my family. It was this huge unknown. They came to Kenya, they created as much of India as they possibly could. And of course, anything that's different is frightening, right? So here were these people with foreign customs, foreign ways of being. And so I think that kind of set the stage for a little bit more of an inclusive, mentality, trying to stick within the familiar. But then also, one thing we always get, I always get told about is, but why don't you let your women marry our men? Right? So when you talk about integration, what sort of integration are we talking about? Are we talking about integration in Kenyan society, which I think isn't true? We are everywhere. We're in business, we're in, philanthropy, we're in the arts, we're even in politics. Is it integration in terms of intermarriage? And that is a whole other Pandora's box.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole cultural background to that too.
And let me ask this on the whole thing of integration into Kenyan society.
Yeah.
Do you feel Kenyan, or do other Asians feel Kenyan?
Yeah. A lot of Indian Kenyans asserting their Kenyanness, saying, we are here, we belong. I was born here. My father was born here. My grandfather was born here. My grandfather's never even been to India. Neither has my father. So really, where else is it that I would belong? And I thought of something interesting, is in my father's generation, just after independence, there was this sort of anti-Asian sentiment that was saying, Asians, why are you interfering with our country? If you don't like what's happening, go. Whereas now it's like, Asians, why aren't you participating? You belong here, you should be, on the front line, working with us.
The tone changed.
The tone has changed.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It's interesting. And Rayhab, you write a lot on stereotypes. So do you actually interact with a lot of these stereotypes, or some conjured in your mind?
Okay, basically, some of these stereotypes are actually true. It's basically just that some people see it from a different point of view. Like, for example, if you're older, you may have, it may be something that's happening with the younger people, but you think this is not, you have this stereotype because maybe you met one or two people behaving in a certain way, so you assume this kind of people, you make these generalizations. But generally, some of them are true, but of course there are those stereotypes that are not true. Especially for me as a woman, I find some of these stereotypes interesting, like the one, for example, where they say, I'm Kikuyu, and they say, there's a stereotype, Kikuyu women can't cook, and Kikuyu women love money, as in, there's always this thing, don't marry a Kikuyu woman because she's only after your money. But there's no one who doesn't like money. And Kikuyu women are
very true.
Yes, Kikuyu women are hardworking. The food thing, okay, I think
you could attest to that one.
No, I can cook, but I do get where I think how Kikuyu women cook was also a function of the society that they lived in. They would spend a lot of time in the shamba, so they didn't have that time to prepare a five-course.
To be creative in the kitchen.
Yes, they would make a meal.
Why are you defending the ones who are not born in the shamba?
No, but it's true.
By the way,
yes.
Cooking activists.
That mixing of ingredients to make githeri or to make mokimo is a product of A time when agriculture was the most important thing. Women had a lot to handle. They would handle the babies, they would have to cook and go to the shamba and a lot of things. So now things have changed.
That was based on the cultural in the past. Now we're in modern times. Can we make that excuse now in this day if you just happen to be Kikuyu and the food is not as good and you say, hey, but it's a stereotype. do you sometimes find that people kind of fit into those stereotypes? Because it's like, after all, that's what they say.
There'll always be people who fit into stereotypes. That's what makes stereotypes have that power. But there'll always be people who don't live up to that stereotype or move beyond certain stereotypes, but we still want to stay in those stereotypes. There's a stereotype that you can't have a woman boss who's an objective woman boss, as in they're usually shrews, and that's not true. But people, let me tell you, people pick the stereotypes that they want and they stick with them.
That's a good point.
Yes.
Sleepy, you do a lot of comedy around different groups, different tribes.
Yes.
So much so that you were saying earlier, people don't know where you're from. At least they try to peg you in this group or that group. And also your stage name doesn't give us an idea.
Yes. It doesn't place me in any box.
Right.
Like Sleepy David, everybody goes to sleep. So from my perspective, what I think is how far do we get into those stereotypes? Okay. And for example, if you say Kikuyus are wherever are corrupt or something, there's that stereotype. But people forget to go further and learn about the stereotype of the entrepreneurial side of the Kikuyus. People just look at Kikuyu and say, if a Kikuyu man comes and tell me, now nataka tufanye biashara, what you see is aki huyu jamaa ananigonga. Hapa kuna wizi nataka kuingia. You forget the entrepreneurial side of it and tap into that.
Right.
And for example, there's a stereotype that women don't know how to drive, and the reason there's traffic in town. Okay, it's not a stereotype, it's the truth.
No. Yes. I can bet on that one. It's the men.
Women drive, but the steering is in, like, you don't even.
But at least, we're not speeders. Speed kills. That's the thing. So it's
And
usually
women are very careful drivers.
Okay, so
if we're careful
see,
drivers, maybe slow but careful.
all these stereotypes, we as comedians, I'm not defending comedians and entertainers. We are there to entertain guys.
But do you think that comedians can go too far at times? Is there a point, or is it just, can it be seen as, oh, it's art? So no, we can't necessarily, it's creative license to, poke fun at a certain community or whatever. Or do you think you can actually go far?
Everybody should take the point of thinking beyond the stereotype, thinking beyond what is on our faces.
Right.
Thinking beyond what we are told. And by that, we'll appreciate the other guys even more. You'll realize that there's so much than what you just being shown.
So just taking someone at least for who they are, get to know the individual, not the group or the community,
Not the group community thing. And,
right. Which is what we tend to always slip into. And Halima, I mean, you face this quite a bit. You are a resident of Italy. Somali community lives there. And you probably get profiling and stereotyping more than a lot of us here, and just take us through some of your experiences.
So me as a Somali young lady, I'm an activist. So I faced a lot of challenges being a Somali young activist. They have the assumption, they really assume that I as a Muslim Somali, we are terrorists and all that, you see. So me being like celebrating diversity and all that, it's like, they always jump to the conclusion and like, she has her own agenda, she wanna bomb us and all that, you see. So when I was issuing my passport recently in 2016, I didn't have my dad's birth certificate, you see. So me as a Somali, they said that, as Somalis you have to have both parents' birth certificate and all that, and my dad has his passport, you see. So they said, she just called someone, I don't know who she called, and said, it's a community border, you see. That's creating hatred between me and the immigration officers, you see. Yeah, being called, and I was born, raised, my mom, my dad, my grandparents were raised, and they're still in Kenya.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'll direct the same question I did to Aleya. I mean, do you feel that you are Kenyan, regardless, I mean, you are treated differently even from government offices? you know, of all places, and you're a Kenyan, you have identification to show, no, I'm a Kenyan, but do you ever feel a part of the country?
Basically, you know, these police officers always come and do their operation there. One asked me, hey, where is your ID? I'm only 19 years old. I was 18 that time. It was December, 10th of December, when we were celebrating Human Rights Day.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
The
from
irony.
Hilton, yeah, I recently came from Hilton, and then they were like, where's the ID? I showed them my school ID, and then they said, this is not the ID. Then, yeah,
Wow.
she broke it into some pieces and they throw it. It's not your ID, where's the ID? I told her, on top of that, I'm a Kenyan. I can assure you that with my birth BCG. She said, hata umbwa mwitu wako nayo. You see, that's also creating hatred between me and the Kenyan government.
Yeah, right, right.
Exactly.
I mean, it's really unfortunate. And Con, as much as we can sit around here and make fun of some of the stereotypes when it comes to communities and tribes, tribe still matters in Kenyan society. Fortunately or unfortunately, because sometimes you can see it as a celebration of culture, and at times it can be just to isolate other groups of people. But I mean, why do you feel in Kenyan society that tribe is such a big issue? Why does it matter?
You know, first, we can't escape from the fact that we are all born into different tribes.
Yeah.
You have to accept. You find yourself born as a Luo, you find yourself born as a Kamba. It's something you can't escape. But it's how we have treated these stereotypes, or it's how far we've taken these stereotypes that has made it matter. And I think we need to begin to shift our value system to begin to appreciate each other as individuals.
Right.
And I think as communities also, we bring to the table quite a big array of positive values that come from our different communities. So I think tribe will remain a big issue.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just how we treat it and how we bring out the positive values of tribe that will help us move forward, I think, as a country.
I mean, a lot of times you'll find people using it as a social currency, if you will, to be able to get a certain job or to get a position, you know. And it's really unfortunate because a lot of times ability is overlooked and someone's talent is overlooked because you're not from my community.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate because for the last even 10 years, you've probably had a few tribes getting the advantage of the jobs. But strange enough, there have been places where, say, I know of Kikuyus who have gone to look for jobs and they've been told, hey, things are thick, cooks are many.
Oh, wow.
So we only see a situation where other tribes who are not represented will be brought in. And I think that is probably as a result of
affirmative action.
Yeah. and probably some campaigns. But it's unfortunate for the Kikuyu who is
Qualified. Yeah.
and for any other tribe that finds themselves in that situation, it becomes a very tight balancing act. But I think it's a price we may have to pay as a country because of what we have allowed tribe to become.
Wow. On that note, let's take a short break. We'll lighten things up a bit. I know it's getting a bit heavy. We'll be right back. Keep the conversation going on social media. Remember, #Victoria's Lounge. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back. You're watching Victoria's Lounge. Now, this stereotype show during the break is actually turning almost into a celebration and learning of different cultures. Con, I actually brought up the whole issue of naming of children. Now, different tribes have different ways of doing it, but Con, how at least do you do it?
You know, I from where I come from,
yes,
as a Luo, I think we have the freedom to name our kids
After anything.
after
Tear gas.
after anything or anyone.
Tear gas of
And that's what you see, you know, when world events happen, kids
oh
are named
yes,
after them.
very current affairs
Current
names.
affairs.
Donald
Yes.
Trump.
Obamas are many, you know. Trump could, if Trump
Can
wins, we
pop
could
up
have
somewhere
Trump,
if he
yeah.
wins.
People should think of beyond your name. Who are you? You don't represent your name. You represent more than your name. For example, I'm Sleepy David. I don't represent just Sleepy David. She's Halima.
Your name betrays you. Your name betrays you.
I'm so awake right now.
You're so awake right now, yeah.
I'm so awake
You
right
haven't
now.
had that. Your name betrays you.
Yeah, that was
Yes.
that. Do you know the politician who made that statement didn't realize how he lent us a very serious phrase.
Yeah.
Your last name betrays you. And I see it a lot. I'm sure they have, but I see it a lot. Like for me, just because my name starts with O, everyone has decided my political persuasion is
It's
this.
a certain way, yes.
My
And that's a
rites of passage
stereotype
is
as
this.
well.
It's a huge stereotype.
Yeah, yeah.
The other day I met
And it's
an
true. Your
Aleya.
last name betrays you.
Yeah,
The,
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the chairman of the NCIC, National Cohesion, Bwana Kaparo,
Yes.
and he was telling me that we are political goods when it comes to your name. Like you're Njoroge, there's somebody who will bargain with your name. It's not you bargaining for yourself.
It's
So I'm
funny because he
saying-
had even brought up that example of hate speech. He said when someone from a community says something, it's fine. But the moment someone from another community says the same thing, it's hate speech.
speech.
You know, so a lot of times it's just the lens that you're kind of looking at it through. But yeah, that tends to be, and you wanted to say something, Rayhab.
I actually wanted to comment on something he had been discussed before about, I think comedians have a responsibility. He was saying that their comedy is Kenyan, so they're representing also the person in Kakamega and the person in Vihiga or whatever. But I think anybody who's in the public has an obligation to realize that people actually look up to them. So when somebody is saying a stereotype about a Luo being like this, us in Nairobi might be finding it funny, but someone in Mombasa could be taking it seriously. My favorite comedian said so.
Okay.
So it's understanding that even though you're trying to be funny,
I would say
Yes.
on that note, our comedy does not just stop at Luos like bragging and cacaos like that. It's how guys look at it and how guys understand, and it's somebody's responsibility as a viewer, as our audience, to understand the thin line between this guy is joking, this guy is celebrating the tribe, this guy is not. We are not activists at sasa tukishasema ati Kambas love colors. We've said all Kambas love colors. The next time you meet your friend na ni Mkamba na hajavaa colors, unadhani yeye amechanganyikiwa. It's people also, the audience also should understand that there's a thin line between celebrating and making fun and all that. It's where you put your mind, what you understand, what you choose to understand. Yeah, that's perspective.
Yeah.
First, we will say.
You know, now kind of switching gears a bit, to fighting against stereotypes. I remember I was listening to a TED Talks by a lady. She's a voice artist called Sarah Jones. And she was giving an example of when she was in Los Angeles in the States. She was with a friend of hers. She's African American and so is her friend. And they were crossing the street. All of a sudden a cop comes, lights flashing, and she's thinking, oh, that can't be for us because we're not in a car, we're pedestrians. And they actually stopped them. And one of the cops comes and asks them, so are you ladies working tonight? Kind of assuming that she was a prostitute, right? Oh. And she said immediately in that moment, before she even uttered a word, because of the way she looked, he took that assumption that they must be. So what she did was she switched her accent, because she can do that, to a British accent. And all of a sudden the response from the cop was like, oh, foreigners, okay, and let them go. And she said, you know, she felt bad for doing it, but it just goes to show, again, just from face value, just the kind of stereotypes that would throw on someone. And she decided, let me just switch it up a bit to fight against that initial stereotype, give them something else that now kind of repelled the police from doing anything further. And I wonder from you, Aleya, do you find yourself having to fight or change a bit just to change the response that you would get?
Oh gosh, that's so interesting. I think that everybody tends to be a bit of a chameleon. So this stereotyping, I think we do sometimes subconsciously, and we do it to each other. So I'm looking at you, I'm sussing you out. Okay, where are you from? You know, what box do I need to put you in so that I know how to engage with you? And then how do I change my demeanor? Maybe my accent becomes a little bit more Kenyan. Maybe it becomes more Muindi. Maybe I'm, you know, like, so I think we don't often realize all those different things that we do.
Yeah.
And we also don't realize it's not just the way we look, it's often the way we speak. So, you know, I'll speak and someone will be like, oh, well, you're obviously from that space. Therefore, you're a snob, or I'm not going to take you seriously, or, you know, you're one of those on a long run.
Basically, like fighting against those stereotypes and sometimes taking on a different
persona.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
I can imagine,
But people
yeah.
do that all the time, especially women. You know, if you're confronted by a situation where there's an angry man, you immediately switch to another persona. You know, the persona that your mother taught you how to be. Even no matter how mad, you become the nice person. So now you're the one trying to calm down the situation.
Right.
So you change. You actually, and women do that a lot. Women are chameleons. They change themselves to suit a situation all the time.
That's a good point. You know, Halima, for your experiences, have you found yourself having to do that in a scenario where, I mean, you don't feel like you can be as Somali or as Muslim as you want to, and sometimes dumb it down?
You know, as a Muslim, a woman is not supposed to lead the men's in the congregation, actually. So I feel more offended when I'm told that, remember that you're a woman, you're not supposed to be a leader and all that.
Or even have a voice, which
Yeah,
as an
yeah,
activist,
exactly, of course.
that's what you do. Yeah.
On the other hand, about when I'm looking in community terms and culture and traditional, I, as a Somali, I'm not supposed to lead men's too. You know, like, I don't have to raise my voice.
Right.
I don't have to raise, so how can I be heard if I'm not raising my voice too?
So how do you fight against that? You know, I'm sure you get a lot of backlash, but still pushing through because you know there's something that you need to fight for. If not, who else is going to do it and things will not change? But how do you push past that?
By ignoring them.
Ignoring them, I like that. Do it anyway, yeah.
If I raise my voice to be heard and leave behind the voiceless, so whom am I voicing for?
It's very unfortunate that most women probably have to have double the aggression, double the effort before they
And
reach a
double the
place.
smarts sometimes to prove that they...
To prove that they can also sit at the table.
Men want women to be women, but women to enter a man's space, you have to be like a man. Then men don't appreciate that, because you have
feel
to
threatened also,
yes, you actually have to now become as aggressive as a man. Then they're like, oh, she's too much of. But then when you try to use soft power, they're like, oh, women are too soft. So seriously,
can't win.
Seriously, as a woman, you can't win. And there's also the issue of like, I know women have faced this, I've had this, like when you, for example, you go to a boardroom, you're all equal, and then the secretary brings tea and leaves. So it's like the stereotype is women are always supposed to, so you're there, you're two women, and there are like maybe 10 men, and they're all looking, and you're all equal.
But that's changing.
You know,
it's
and they're all looking at you like, you know, women are the ones supposed to.
Well, naturally, the one who takes the minutes.
Yes, is the woman.
There.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Let's take a short break here in Victoria's Lounge. We'll be right back and discussing what exactly makes us Kenyan. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Now, the question, what unites us? What makes us Kenyan? And it's funny because you have to sit and really think about that. It's terrible because it has to go beyond the fact that you have an ID or
The national
a passport
anthem.
or a national anthem. We don't even have a national dress. Come to think of it.
Well,
you
they
know?
tried and it didn't work.
But okay, let me start from the simpler aspect. We tend to unite when it comes to sporting events, when it comes to maybe concerts or something related to the arts. Why? Why is it so easy to do it there?
When you see the Kenyan flag on a world stage, there's something it does about bringing us together. And it could be for both good and tragic reasons.
Yeah.
When we see our athletes going to win, and there are like 4 of them getting to the finish line, that you forget that that's a Kalenjin runner. You know, we all just know that's a Kenyan, and we all cheer, and we drink to it, and we shout to it. But you also see it in tragedy. If there's a tragedy that happens that kills very many Kenyans, whether they're Kenyans within one locality, though you can argue with the level of Kenyanness that happens with that, or if it's in Nairobi where it kills people from all walks of life, then your flag again comes up.
Yeah,
But it's now come up because blood has been shed.
Right.
That unites us. And I think it's just because it jolts us out of that world we are so used to. Our stereotypes, our boxes, we are forced and jolted out of it by these positive and negative things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes us then remember we are Kenyan. Unfortunately, I have to use the word remember because 1 week later, we go back.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. I mean, and you're right, when you talk about, even in tragedy, you see this where it's now humanity kicks in. You're just responding to someone else who's in need of help. And we saw that in Westgate. And I remember talking to you about this a bit earlier, Aleya, about how the Indian community really reached out. There was a different face that we saw from the Asian community and reaching out and kind of offering a helping hand. Why did that happen then, and why do you think it was such, an issue?
Well, I mean, so the question is, to play devil's advocate a little bit, we saw the Indian community come out in great force in Westgate. Did we see as much of an outcry, say, in Garissa? Do we relate stronger with people who we consider our own? And that in itself is really something we need to really think carefully about and address more intentionally.
Yeah.
But also to your other question, the idea of being Kenyan is a young idea. The idea of Kenya, the state, is young, right? It's only like however many, couple of decades old. There's more than one way of being Kenyan. And I think that that's part of the thing, is we're trying to put everyone into one box and saying, this is the only way to be Kenyan. Why?
Yeah. And I guess because it's easier to define, when we do it that way of, we'll just do it by tribe. It's easy, we've been doing it that way, so there's no need to kind of find a national identity, if you will.
But I think we could learn from Tanzania. Tanzania, we laughed at them when they were, trying to sort themselves out. But Tanzanians are united.
Yeah.
Kenyans are united when it suits us, but not all the time. So we need to build a nation where we're not patriotic because we are listening to the national anthem, or because you can say the loyalty pledge, which, by the way, after high school, no one remembers. So it's Kenyanness, being patriotic is going beyond the normal. It's making people to be cohesive and actually love their neighbor, whether their neighbor is a Kikuyu, a Meru, a Luo, and all that.
Do you think that other countries are obsessed? Like, do people from the Gambia think, are we Gambian enough? Like, what does that mean? So I don't know.
That is a good question. I wonder, and why that is something here. Maybe because, we slipped into a bad place in 2007, 2008, and it scared us. And I think for Kenyans, they thought, whoa, we're capable of that. And our divisions can go that deep. And then the fear of not wanting to return there kind of asked us that, we had to ask that question, can we be one people? How do you feel, or what needs to be done rather?
I'm still a Kenyan, but I feel less Kenyan, and whenever I'm going outside of my house or out of my home, I have to carry my ID closer to my heart. You see, so I'm not even. I don't feel more Kenyan. I feel less Kenyan because of from my background community. I'm a Somali, and I accept that. I'm a proud Somali. But on the other hand, they also have to believe and accept that I'm a Kenyan.
Right.
Maybe one of the, was it in 2012 when the operation was happening in Siri and people were taking in Kasarani and all that. You see, there's a police who told me that, hey, about the national anthem, hey, are you a Kenyan? Why? Yes, I'm a Kenyan. So, do you have an ID? No, I don't have an ID. I'm still at my teenage age. No, you can't be. No, umeona hivi yote unaweza kukua hiyo miaka. He's asking me that, you see. I was a fatty lady, you see. And I was like, oh, hey, usiniambie hivyo. Enda umalize shule, I'll marry you, okay? Yeah, you see, he's a police officer and told me that, me even, I'm not a Kenyan. I'm not a Kenyan. He's telling me I'm not a Kenyan, and he's here to rule me as a Kenyan. Why is he ruling me in my own country?
Right.
That's not good. You know, and he told me that Ebu and sing the national anthem, and I was like, because of fear, I forgot. Wow. I forgot the national anthem.
I mean, would they make any other Kenyan do that? It's really ridiculous sometimes when you think of what our security forces do and perpetuating that further. Sleepy, you wanted to...
I wanted to say this. We might have a Kikuyu who is a thief, but most Kikuyus are not thieves. We might have a stingy Indian, but what you don't know is that most Indians are not stingy. We might have a Luo who brags, but most Luos don't brag.
Right.
We might have women who don't know how to drive, but most women know how to drive.
Yeah, we had to bring that out.
So it starts with us. It starts with each and every one of us. That first of all, you realize that the change should come from you outwards. You should not expect the change from anyone else. And also, be ready to embrace the consequences that comes with it.
To build on what Sleepy is saying with regard to what can, I don't know, bring us together or make everyone feel Kenyan, devolution has the opportunity, but also a risk to either make everyone feel a part of this country and a partaker of the resources, or to also balkanize us further. And you know, there's a lot of apprehension about the next election and how the devolved structures will respond to that. But I think there's a lot of positive things that devolution has done, especially to those regions that never ever got any resources to talk about. So you have roads in places that never saw roads for 50 years, maternity hospitals, etc. And I think we need to begin to highlight and celebrate a lot of these things and promote them further. But the other thing is the national music festivals. I didn't go to a school that participated in that, but how it melts all our cultures together into that stage. It's unfortunate that we do it for 3 weeks per year, then it's dumped and forgotten. But I think it is something we need to probably see how to prop up even further.
I think us guys growing up, when we were young, it was very hard to find like a Kikuyu marrying a Luo. It was like a really big deal. But now, our generation, because most of us grew up, like the ones who we grew up in Nairobi, we got used to our neighbors were Luos, Kalenjins and all of that. So you never saw tribe as per se.
A factor, yeah.
Yes, so people are intermarrying, and a lot of people now in who are brought up in Chags are actually starting to realize, even as they find that other people are intermarrying. It's just learning to teach our kids that, by the way, it doesn't matter where you come from, and it's not just tribe. It's also there are people who teach their kids to see people along class lines as well. So it's teaching our kids that everybody is important, whether they are rich, they are poor, whether they are from another tribe or not, and treating each person as a human being.
And a great place to end this conversation. Thank you so much to some really enlightening. Sleepy David awoke us to some interesting philosophies.
I think this is the first time I didn't know I have this side of seriousness.
I'm telling you.
Like Kizungu, I hope mumesikia.
But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope it starts a conversation, not just on social media, but in your homes, in the salon, in the barbershop, wherever you are, to really think, how do we view each other? And are we really appreciating someone for who they are and what they can bring to the table? That's where it should start. Thanks for watching Victoria's Lounge from the beautiful Concord Hotel and Suites. Let's do this again next week. Have a wonderful night.
Yes. What do you want?
My earrings.
Mimi nakwambia. Jona kwanza hizo ma eyeshadow. Ni vile zimekaa. Zakankaza fly. Lakini hiyo kuna picha nilipiga yako lakini mtu anakanyaka. Usiweke katikati sana. Bado utaona utafika.
Great. With Halima again. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.